There we go.
And Jeff, do we have context on these at all? Did they send in context, or we're just diving in?
Yeah, so a little bit of context on this. So this is for a pharma company that's selling to kind of doctors. So these are lab doctors that are looking for new ways to kind of ramp up their research. And this is a cold email that gets roughly about 5% response rate on outbound. So just for a little bit of a context, this is a sales team that is typically operated in field sales. Obviously, due to the COVID pandemic and people having to work from home, they're kind of adjusting their strategy and focusing more on cold outreach emails. Nice. So as you can see, the subject line's in the right corner there. So Professor Smith discuss a new tool for chemistry research.
I'll dive in right away. Just the first thing that hits me, and I haven't even finished reading it, is the fact that we're starting with I'm blank. Like we're already the first sentence is already making it kind of about you. Mm-hmm. And I think that first line is so unbelievably important, because I can't remember the exact number, but something like 70% are read on mobile. So you can only see the first, couple words. So if the first couple words are I'm blank and I don't know blank, like I've never seen that name before, I immediately now know I don't know this person, so it's not a priority. Right. So that's the first one that kind of just jumps off for me.
Right. I'll throw out, so there's one thing that I really liked was, and this ties into your point, Scott, is actually, they mentioned specifically your lab's contributions to the fields of, and like named the fields in a pretty detailed way. Mm-hmm. Imagine if you started the very first sentence of the very first paragraph was, your lab's contributions to the fields of these two things have been impactful. I just caught this article about it, or whatever, however you transition that. The idea of starting with your lab, like, oh, instantly I want to know what you have to say about my lab.
Right.
What are you going to tell me that you've observed about me? And so kind of switching that point of view, exactly what you're talking about, Scott, like take out the I, don't introduce yourself. Your name's in the signature. It's not that hard. We can figure that out. Start with you, which I think is a great, and the sentence from there on is so good. It's all about them. It seems very personal, very specific to their lab. And I think it's a great idea to intro it.
Yeah, a good point, Rex. And I'm going to kind of add to that a little bit, is that what this sentence really shows is that you're very familiar. So the seller is very familiar with who Professor Smith is, what they do, how they contribute to the industry. And it shows that they have very deep domain knowledge into what Professor Smith cares about. So I really like that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's just kind of wasted with that first line, right?
Yeah. What would you guys think about totally abandoning, like, so that first paragraph, let's say we kill the very first sentence and we kind of up that first paragraph and talk about them. What do you think about throwing out, and especially if you're going to do multi-step sequence, the very first thing, just a very short paragraph, like, hey, this has been really impactful, or like your contributions to this field have been really impactful. Would you be open to considering something that would help with name the problem? And like just drop the email there, no bullet points, no feature set, like literally just try and get them to respond. Like, is that something you guys are addressing, or is that an issue for the lab that you guys are working in right now? Like almost just to start the conversation, instead of, it feels like you have to dump out the whole pitch here in this email, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
I got some thoughts there. I think what you're trying to do at this point is just simply elicit a response, right? That's what you're going for right now. So I think that way of doing it is a great way to do it. And I know Josh Braun talks a lot about, like, those one sentence kind of like emails, because the other thing, and don't get me wrong, this is a great email. I look back at other ones, this is a really strong email, particularly if you get rid of the first sentence. So I do want to preface that. But when I do look at it, which I get more people pitching me than but my brain automatically goes into the heuristic pattern of like, oh, this is a sales email, because I've seen that 3-bullet pattern on so many emails, and just this kind of structure makes my brain go, ooh, sales email. Yeah. So I do think, Rex, there is a world that's for sure worth an A/B test.
Yeah, like worst case scenario, they don't respond until they go then look at your website and think like, okay, what are they trying to pitch me? And then they do a little self-discovery and they're like, hey, I don't think it's for me because of something specific, which you can combat with maybe, like, oh, this is why you should field a call on this.
Right.
Versus giving them everything up front and like, look, I'm just overwhelmed, frankly. Like, I'm probably just going to ignore this.
Yeah, well, and that actually speaks to it just on the bullets themselves. I mean, I see, at least 2 or 3 different emails that I could send based on the 3 bullet points that are here. Making for a really solid, nice drip campaign sequence. So we could easily take this kind of drip approach or the bullets approach, crack it into 3 separate emails, and then have those as your different subjects of each email.
Yeah,
I like it. And your point, Rex, made me think of an interesting, like, the more you put in an email, the more outs someone actually has, right? Like, they, on one of these bullets, they could be great. And then there's their objection right there. And then in their head, oh, I don't need to talk to this person because I'm all good here. You kind of gave them everything. And so you're also giving them more doors to kind of scurry out of.
Right. No, that makes sense. There's one thing I noticed as well is that we do see a lot of I. So Rex, you kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but there's I. It's really all about me, and less about the actual person themselves.
Yeah, agreed. I think again, while like Scott, I think this is leagues ahead of the average email, right? We're still talking about if you're about 5%, you're still 5 times better than the average cold email, which is typically trash. Yeah. I think there's still an opportunity, like, we sometimes like, oh, okay, bold the call to action so that their eye goes there, but there's no value in that call to action, so I wouldn't bold it.
Yeah.
And then I would be happy to provide a demo. This is a personal thing. I don't tell prospects I'm going to demo them, give them a demo. I'll show you the tool. That's how normal human beings, non-salespeople speak. Hey, I'd love to see that. I'd love for you to demo me. That's not how they talk. So let's just get rid of the word demo. Don't ever say the word demo. Then we assume it's a 30-minute spiel where you just feature dump on me and I just have no interest in that, right? Like, that's an average salesperson phrase. Right. So, hey, I'd be happy to show you what that would do or how that would work for your lab given these specific criteria I know you guys might have. So I'd say dump the demo. Right.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, it goes back to that, Scott mentioned on a previous sequence practice that you really want to talk in natural language. So like you said, Rex, don't come across as a salesperson, come across as a helpful person that could be very well your friend the way they're talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's certain language that salespeople use, like demos, and I would be happy to provide a demo. It's like, of course you would. That's what your probably KPIs
almost like saying on, free demo. You should throw in free there and see how much that improves your click-through rate.
Yeah, cutting edge is another one. Cutting edge is like an infomercial term that we can't use. There's even like offerings. Don't have any of that. Have someone who is maybe not in sales review your email and be like, hey, is any of this coming across salesy? And I bet they can circle it pretty quick.
Yeah.
And last point I'll point on this, because it's in the similar vein, is knowing the context. I didn't give this advice right away because I bet selling to like pharma and like scientists appreciate this, but this does look pretty jargony to me. There's a lot of words that are specific. Like I look at desired parameters, product synthesis and synthetic. I think it's okay in this environment. I just wanted to highlight the point that watch some of the kind of buzzwords and jargon that you use.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up a similar point. Like, I bet that 50% of this is very industry specific, very helpful, and 50% of this is how your company talks about this thing. So look in especially for science, like look in a published journal. Are they using all of these phrases or like half of these phrases? Like, are you saying like match your desired parameter sounds nice and sciencey, retrosynthetic pathways maybe is your company's term for it? I don't know. Look out for those because you think, oh, I'm being very tailored, very focused, but also your own version of jargon will get slipped in there quite easily. Especially this happens all the time with software, like SaaS companies. all the freaking time. You think that's how your buyer talks, but in reality, it's how your company talks about how your buyer talks. So just be cautious, like use the right industry language, but not just your specific company language.
Well, I like that, Rex. How your company talks about how your buyer talks. I like that. That's awesome. There's another thing that I'm going to point out that I really like before we move on to the next one is I like that even though the call to action, I mean, we don't really have much love for the call to action here, but I do like that we do put in a benefit for the customer. So like if we can, to use Rex words, show you this tool, you can assess its utility. I mean, I don't necessarily like the wording of it, but I like putting a benefit of I'm asking you for something so you can get this.
Yeah, and I'm okay with the assumption that like there might not be any utility. I kind of like that. You know, the opportunity for you to determine yes or no. I'm not assuming that it's a guarantee.
Yeah.
Like, hey, show up and you'll be able to determine for yourself. It's a little assumptive. I'm cool with it. I like that idea.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So we have best practices. So what would you say? Give me one sec. So what would you say are 3 takeaways from this email?
I love Scott's of like, let's just cut out I. Let's get rid of all the I's, and especially to start, like think mobile preview.
Okay.
Yeah, mobile preview is huge. Just your first sentence is the headline in the New York Times, right? It can't be weak. You should be spending most of your time thinking about your first sentence.
Okay. Perfect. And then what's one more thing, gentlemen?
I try short and sweet. Like I think we all agreed, like take that content, split it up, or just cut it out.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would yeah, A/B test this with a email that's like a third of that long and doesn't go through all the benefits, just maybe does like one.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. So with that said, any comments from the audience? Anybody have any questions or comments on what the advice we provided?
And let me know if we missed anything. I'm sure we probably did. If you have any comments and things, tweaks we could do better, or things maybe you thought were fantastic. And want to reiterate, it was a darn good email.
It was.
Great starting.